All
Okay.
right. If I disappear, it's because can't be at every meeting all the time.
No problem. No problem. Yeah,
Please
and,
forgive
and
me.
yeah, and since we're recording this, I'm going to kind of try to go through like a more comprehensive overview here. I know it looks like we have some experienced campaign folks on the call here, so I apologize if this is a little 101, but always feel free to. I want to make this as interactive as possible, and feel free to jump in at any time with any questions or comments or suggestions or tips that will help campaigns as well. So yeah, the title of this is Effective Websites and Online Strategies. And so you're just starting a campaign and you're just starting to, you've got your basic campaign team together and you're getting ready to run. So what are some of the first things that you want to do when you're running for office? And one of the first things you want to do is you want to reserve a domain name. And that domain name should let folks know, typically it's your name, and also you want to have a campaign component to that. So the examples I chose here were marsharummel.com and votemarcia.com. Marcia is my city council alder who is retiring, who's done a fantastic job over the years. But you want to go ahead and first reserve those domain names. And even if you're thinking of running for office in a few years to come, it doesn't hurt to reserve those domain names early in case you may have a name that's more common. My name Yogesh might not be as common here, but actually there's a lot of folks in India with the name Yogesh. So I went ahead and reserved yogeshchavla.com and voteyogesh.com. And the place you reserve these domain names for your websites is called a domain name registrar. A few examples are on the screen here: Paranic.com, Namecheap. They're about a dime a dozen out there, and they cost about $10 to $15 a year. So even when you're thinking of running, it doesn't hurt to reserve the domain name. It's cheap enough to do that. The next thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and select a web host. We're very fortunate these days that there's a lot of very mature web hosting platforms out there. My favorite is Squarespace. I don't want to just advocate for one company, but there's also ones like Wix out there. Or if you're very kind of savvy, you can just get any type of a content management system. Nation Builder is one, Drupal, WordPress. They all have these really nice plugins and templates. So once you get your content out there for a website, you can easily just switch templates and themes, and it kind of makes it so you don't really need any, or you'd be able to do a nice looking website with a limited amount of graphic design experience or IT experience as well. So after we go through a few slides here, I'm just going to show you a couple of good looking websites, or at least websites that I think are pretty professional. So the next thing is actually building your site. And you want to identify a theme for your campaign. A lot of folks, when they're running, will have 2 or 3 words that they put together to kind of give a feel for their campaign. For my campaign, it was progressive, activist, neighbor. I chose those terms because first I wanted everyone to know I was progressive. Second, I wanted folks to know I had an activist background. And I chose neighbor just because I'd worked on a lot of neighborhood association issues. And I think just trying to get out in a few words what your background is something that's important to do. And when we look at the websites, we'll get kind of a better feel for that. So the first thing you want to do is give people a little biography. Like, why are you running for office? And try to make a personal connection and tell a story. And the story I chose to tell when I was running was I came here as an immigrant, and the opportunities that were available to us, I didn't see offered widely to Dane County, to all of our neighbors in the community. And so trying to connect my story to some of the challenges, particularly we had with equity and opportunity. So having that type of bio lets people know who you are. The next thing you want to do is to let them know what you want to do. And this is the issues in the platform section of your website. I think this is probably the most important part of a website, because a lot of people go to a website. Most content is dynamic these days, and people don't really go to websites anymore, but they go there to find out what your issues and platform are and who your supporters are, and to give you money. So listing out specific policy proposals is really good. And I always feel like you shouldn't launch a website unless you have those policy proposals. Also, I'm going to later refer to this issues and platform section because I think having a website out there gives a great repository of information to create your social media presence. And really, when you turn things over to a volunteer, they could just go to your website because everything has been vetted and approved and use that to make social media posts. And I think that really helps quite a bit. The next important part of the website is the supporters section. You know, showing people that you have elected officials who vouch for you, community leaders, unions, parties. I think the one that's really underemphasized here is community leaders. If you're running a neighborhood campaign, people want to see who in the neighborhood supports you, and emphasizing that district and neighborhood support, I think, is one of the most important things. The next thing is you just want to be able to give people a platform to contact you, be listed as a supporter, host a house party, put up a yard sign, and volunteer. So those links are pretty helpful to have. Obviously, the other one that's the most important is the donate link. We need to send people someplace where they can get money or they can give money. And there's a lot of online donation platforms, PayPal, Square, ActBlue. The most important thing with the donation platforms is to make sure those are ready to go before you launch, and to make sure they're actively monitored, because you want to make sure, especially if you get a big donation that came in, you want to maybe acknowledge that person as soon as you can. And you want to make that connection with your donors and with your supporters. So let's look at a couple of websites out here. I'm going to just pop over to here. So if we look at Iomi's running in District 8, if you look here, the color scheme is very good. There's a very good headshot there. Passion and a plan. Iomi has a history as an activist, but they are looking to translate that passion into a policy plan. So if you look here, a very good color scheme. We can see endorse and donate in nice links here. We have, just in one sentence here, I'm a Nigerian American activist, organizer, and current UW-Madison student. It gives a very good bio there. We can see a clear platform and endorsements here as well. We can also see press. The one that I liked here was the calendar link. The calendar link, I thought it was kind of nice, where you could just go through and you could see all of the events that are happening. Kind of gives even the campaign a good roadmap of what's going on. Juliana Bennett here, who's running in District 8, has a really nice website as well. The one thing I wanted to highlight here is you can see the hashtag right here. So a lot of folks, especially in the student districts, are going to be using social media and social media platforms. So as soon as you go to the website, you can see what the hashtag is, and everyone can connect on that, and you can see real activism, real change. And I think also having the social links right across the top there are very nice to have and very good. The other one I wanted to show was Tag Ever's website. The thing I liked about it is I thought the logo was really nice. It's kind of a smile embedded in there. And it also, since this is a re-election campaign, it clearly shows re-elect Tag Evers in very big letters, so you know that this person who is running is the incumbent. So I think that's important. And also the other thing I liked about this is it's in serving the residents of Bay Creek, Dungeon Monroe, Greenbush, Monona Bay, the Triangle, and Vilas. It clearly shows that this person has a strong understanding of what their district is, and listing on all those neighborhoods, I think, shows maybe they have an understanding of some of the different challenges, or maybe each part of the district has different issues they want to focus on. And then, having all these districts and then having the first bullet point be shared values. So trying to connect the different parts of the district together. So the splash page of a website, I think, is very important because it shows immediately, is the campaign professional? Are they organized? Do they have an understanding? And it gives just an idea, I think, of the leadership style the person will have in the district. You can see all those websites are a lot more splashy and more polished than the presentation I put together here, but I like to keep the presentation simple. So also, I think particularly if you're an incumbent, having a media section there that links to news stories, press releases, appearances, and whatnot is really important. I will show you my website here. So in the news section, I try to have just a lot of links here so folks can see, if I'm to run for reelection, they'll say, okay, well, this guy has been doing a lot of news stuff so they can kind of get an idea of experiences. The other thing I think is important as well, if you're an incumbent, is to have a blog that you update pretty frequently. So having a blog and then, just having like, even within the blog, having like rich content. So if you scroll through here, people will see, okay, well, maybe this guy has a deeper understanding or will go into things in more detail. So I think some of that is important when you're looking at a new campaign versus an incumbent. So I always think that the website is a really good place to build once your candidate wins, to build their presence as an elected official. So let's get to the funner part here. That's the social media. I think we all kind of know that social media is the new way, especially in a pandemic, for everyone to connect their campaigns to the community. And I have a couple of tips here, which I think are sort of helpful. One is, and I think this is the most important, is to develop a calendar. Campaigns should be intentional about their social media use. You want to make sure you look at the entire calendar. Like, for example, tonight, if you're running a campaign and you have a primary tomorrow, the last few days, all the posts should be focusing on getting people out to vote, letting them know where to vote, absentee ballot drop-off locations, rules, laws, everything around that. And you want to post regularly, but you don't want to overpost. Every post should have a purpose and it should have a theme, and those themes should look to connect. And some of the themes we have are issue positions, and this is what it's kind of referring to before. If you look at some of these websites where folks have issues positions, you can just go right into these websites. And if you look here, like for example, on Rebecca Kemmel's website, everything you see here on this page can easily be turned into a social media post. You can turn all these endorsements. That's 6 posts right there. If you look at the endorsements from the people here, you'll see organizations, you'll see local leaders, and there's all these quotes here. Every single one of these quotes can turn into a post. And once you tag all those folks in these posts, they will be able to share those as well. So this page alone can give you a reach to maybe, 1,000 people, 2,000 people, something like that. And this site is built with Nation Builder. That's the other reason I wanted to show it, just as an example of some other platforms that can kind of be used. A couple other things were endorsements. I'm using something like Canva to really easily make graphics. Back in the days, we'd have some professional graphic designers and really had to work hard on that. Platforms like Canva can help us make like endorsement graphics pretty easy. Also emphasizing community appearances back when we could make those, showing up at places that are relevant, especially in your district. If there is a neighborhood association meeting, if there is a get together, a festival, a gathering, being there, if there's a volunteer opportunity, showing your candidate and your candidate supporters in the community, I think is pretty important. The other thing is to just help build your biography. If we take a campaign like, Alder Kemball's campaign, well, Alder Kemble was at Standing Rock. Alder Kemble was really instrumental writer over the years, has done a lot of work as an activist and has a lot of those examples. Using that to help build the biography, to show a series of just to show involvement and leadership over the years, I think is very important. This next bullet point for new campaigns, I think, is really important. It's being mindful of past posts and content. Sometimes we say things on social media that may not represent the best of us. So we should be mindful of those. And I'm not advocating one way or another deleting them or modifying them, but being mindful of them. You might want to clean up your social media. That's just a good thing to do. I think, even these days, like, yeah, I mean, we all say and do things that we in the moment that we might not want memorialized. Also, using platforms relevant to your user base, or your voter base, I should say. If you're running a campaign in the student district, well, you might want to have an Instagram presence, or you might need a Snapchat presence, or you might need to use platforms where your voters are. And this is also to say, don't discount any of the traditional campaign platforms, neighborhood association meetings, newsletters, profiles in newspapers, the League of Women Voters survey. You can't miss any of those benchmarks, because that's when voters are looking to vote. They'll know your campaign from social media, but they'll research your campaign quite a bit from the traditional campaign platforms, because the local elections, they have low turnout, but I think the voters who do vote are highly engaged. So let me pause here for a minute. Are there any questions, or is there anything we should address, or I'm just gonna take a little pause just to take the pulse to see how things are going.
I have a question, Yogesh.
Sure.
Do you have thoughts on, like, on social media, how you can actually reach people? So, like, right now, Facebook, right? I think,
Yeah.
like, you can't really advertise if you're a candidate or campaign.
Yes.
And if you have a Facebook page, like, they set it up so that you have such a tiny, tiny reach or whatever. So how do you actually reach people from your
Yes.
page? What are some strategies to try to actually elevate it on that through the algorithms or whatever?
That is a excellent question, and there's two strategies that I think are important. The times you post. If you post something at 11 p.m. on a Wednesday, it's going to get no eyeballs. But if you post something at 7 p.m. on a Wednesday or 8 p.m. on a Wednesday, you want to be posting at times where people are going to be most likely interacting with your platforms after work, after dinner, before bedtime. I think generally 7 to 8 p.m. is a good time. Maybe the kids, you just finished dinner. If you have children, maybe they're watching a show and you're scrolling through your phone. Um, the other thing is, when you're doing a big post, you want to maybe get 10 or 12 people on your campaign team to say, hey, the post is hitting at this time. As soon as this post hits, share it and put it out there with your network. And by tagging people and organizations, they're more likely to share that content as well. So I think with Facebook, what we used to do when we had the ability to advertise before the coup and everything is we would sponsor a post for a short amount of time to start to give it some legs, and then let it naturally take over from there. Also, effective posts as well are going to have some kind of a graphical picture content to them. I just did a post the other day on something to do with cow manure and farms and this and that. It's not very glamorous content. So what I did with that post was I put a really cute picture of a cow on there. So I thought maybe, well, this is going to draw people to a topic that might not be as interesting. So I think, working with that algorithm, and when a post initially goes out, to really get your team to really push it is very helpful. Um, so I think that's one strategy that works. And I think once we get to sponsored posts again, we'll have an opportunity to really put that out there. But I'm just trying to get something some legs when it initially goes out. I think it's really important. Another thing that I think helps as well is when you have events that you're for your campaign team, to make sure that they're public events, and also to make sure that your core team all signs up as interested or going, so their networks will see that. And then to be mindful of when you post in the events, to not do it too frequently, because it'll notify everybody in the event. So if you have something to say for that event, make sure it's something important to say, and make sure it fits with some of the campaign goals. So, but that was an excellent question, Heidi. Thanks for that. And speaking of, let's dive into a little bit more of Facebook and how to get things some legs. I mean, first of all, what you want to do is you want to make sure you have your name in there, the district you're running for, as well as the unit of government you're running for. For example, here, Leland Pan for County Board District 5. We know that Leland Pan's a candidate. We know Leland's running for County Board. We know it's in District 5. And then the next thing I said was to establish that calendar. I think particularly with Facebook, you don't want to jump in with 2 or 3 posts a day. You want to be intentional of what you're posting. Are you posting about issues? Are you posting about endorsements? Are you posting about a campaign event that's coming up? Maybe a house party, a lit drop. Those aren't as relevant right now with the pandemic, but post-pandemic, I think they will be important. And the next thing is just having all your supporters hyping all your posts and sharing and tagging friends. So let's say that you have an event, a kickoff event, and you have let's say you have 50 people there. Having all those pictures of those people, having as a candidate, first thing you want to make sure whenever you have an event, somebody is the photographer and that you get a picture with everybody at that event. It's even better if you get a picture with everybody at that event holding a sign with your name on it. That way, for example, before primary, you can just post all those pictures that night and tag all those people. The other thing that I think is helpful to get eyeballs to your Facebook page is to use a Facebook Live or other dynamic content smartly. You don't want to just go live willy-nilly, but let's say, for example, you're a candidate and you just developed a detailed plan to deal with zoning in your district and you have a presentation you want to do, or you're, something to that effect. If you do a 1 to 2 minute Facebook Live and you maybe go through some slides and inform people about something in your district, or if you're at an event, or if you're at a rally, or if you're at, some kind of an action and you go live, doing that sparingly, I think it'll help draw people to your page. The other big thing is you got to get a number of likes to get some kind of critical mass. I always suggest, when you first run, you got to invite all your friends to your page. And then afterwards, anytime anybody interacts with your page, it'll give you the opportunity to invite them to your page and just to make sure to do that. And if you properly register your campaign, Facebook sometimes does things where it asks people to follow their local elected officials, or Facebook might help you there as well to just get more people to like and follow your page. The other thing is to be responsive, but don't feed the trolls. You're going to get people who are maybe just want to, they might just be looking to stir the pot a little bit. It's good to respond and correct anything that's wrong, but you don't have to respond to every comment. If you have 2 or 3 people who are maybe being critical, you can respond to something once and just say, well, we're going to leave it at that. So people know you have responded. But, the other thing you could do, particularly if you are in office, what you could do is you could say, if anybody has any follow-up comments, leave your campaign email, or you can leave your official email and people can be responsive to you like that. So what I want to do now is I want to show what I think is a good example of a good Facebook page. If we look at Nikki Conklin's Facebook page here in District 9, we can clearly see what Nikki is running for. We have a logo there. We have a good headshot there. On the left, we can see little bio here. We also have a link to the website. We have a phone number. We have an email address, and we have a category there. And if you look at the posts here, we can see this is a very good graphic template. You can see endorsed, Patrick Heck. You can see a picture and a quote. I think it works very nicely. The only suggestions I would have maybe here are to tag the person who is doing the endorsement and give them a heads up and say, hey, can you share this? Can you give it some legs? And you can tag their personal page or whatever Facebook allows you to tag there. You can do that. Also, what I liked here is there's an event. The events are here. There's a phone bank happening now, and the phone bank is probably a GOTV type phone bank. And then we can also see some community endorsements here. And those have been shared as well. We can see that. And then we can also see there are some likes there. And then we can, we also see, this is the other thing that caught my eye. Michelle, I believe you're on the line right now. But having a challenge like this where you say, okay, we have a $90 donation and we're asking 10 folks to match it. I also think this is something that Ali Muldrow did really well, is whenever anybody donates, to tag them and post, thank them for their donation, and use that as a way to help get people there. But I thought this idea of a challenge grant, and the challenge grant is $9 in District 9. It's not a huge ask, but it's an ask that makes sense with the campaign. Like sometimes, like if I was running in 2022, I'd say, can we do $20.22? Something to that effect. Also, the other thing I wanted to highlight on this is I liked how there was a absentee ballot post. I like the graphics work that was done here, and also the drop-offs at Fire Station 12 and having this info here. A couple of suggestions that I would have is it doesn't hurt in the comments to maybe put some Google Map links to it, and like just say, okay, if you want to get, here are the different Google Map links to these different places. I do think having like the link right there to nikki.vote is good, because then if you go here, you can see some special notices, and then you can also go to where is my polling location. So I thought that was a nice touch. So I think this campaign is doing a pretty good job. I know 9 is very competitive out there, but just having this and doing like a quick scroll through here, here's a good live as well. You can see candidates going live, and it looks like they're going past one of the places on the campaign. So I thought that this was well done, and you can scroll through. Then also, like this kind of post is very helpful, where you show yourself doing the work and saying, I'm going to be an accessible alder who will lift up all voices of our district. Having this, you'll also see this got 34 likes, and it did pretty well. And if you look at a lot of folks who like this, it was pretty widely throughout the community. So I think having posts like that where you see the candidate in action is very helpful. So this is just one campaign. A lot of campaigns are doing really good work on social media here. One more suggestion I have is whenever you have something like a YouTube link here, if we click on this, we'll see the candidate in action.
Hi.
And this message here, you can, instead of linking people directly to a video, you should just upload those videos directly to Facebook. And then whenever you do that, you should caption the files. And give me 1 minute here. I'm going to go off script just a little bit, but I'm going to find an SRT file here just to show an example of what one looks like. 1 second here. Let's open this up with TextPad. So whenever you're posting a video, you can see here, this is what an SRT file looks like. The first caption, the time frame you want the caption to be running, and what you want the text to say. Like this says, thank you, Madam Chair. I rise in support of 2 resolutions. The first is in favor of expungement reform. If people see that text on the screen and they see the video running, they're not very likely to click on the video and watch it, but they will read what you say. So anytime you have a video, post a video directly to Facebook and have captions on it. Captions also, the reason I think you want to have captions is when we talk about accessibility and inclusion, people might have different abilities when it comes to sight, speech, and hearing. So making sure we can reach out to all the audiences there, I think is very important.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure, go ahead.
So back to the Facebook Live thing.
Sure.
So we had a challenge last weekend with integrating Zoom into Facebook. And I gather that that's a common problem for people.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice about how to make that go smoother next time? Because there was an awful lot of gatekeeping, and like we had to do a lot of like permissions and, you know, different accounts. And then it was like, things got logged out and then it got screwed up. And I mean, I ran through that thing like 5 times. And then when it came time to go live, we didn't know if we were live or not. And it wasn't done correctly.
That's a challenge, because a lot of this stuff is just emerging as campaign tools. I mean, I think the campaign did all the right things, practicing it beforehand, doing a couple of dry runs. I think you can do those late at night when no one's on or most people are logged off. But the one thing I think is maybe helpful for that is to just stick to one platform. You know, if you try to integrate 2 different platforms, they might not coexist nicely because those companies might not want them to. So, you know, if you want to do like a live event, just pick one platform and stick everything to that platform.
You mean like if we were doing a Zoom, just send the Zoom link in the Facebook event rather than trying to put it onto Facebook? Yeah, that's what we've been considering. So you just confirmed what I thought.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things, just trying to keep it as simple as possible, or just use one platform. Yeah, I think practicing, because the thing is sometimes these platforms update too, so something that worked a few days ago might not work the next day. So yeah, that's a tough situation. I think I think you did everything right, practice, but I think single platform stuff is better. And you could do the same event on one platform and then a few days later do it on another one, and maybe see where you get more participation, and then use that as an informal kind of poll as to which way to go.
But there wouldn't be any way to do a Facebook Live with multiple people unless we were using Zoom, right? So because these are like a town hall kind of thing where there's a couple people talking. Yeah. So there wouldn't be a way to do that unless you were using Zoom. So you'd almost have to just use Zoom but it would be linked in the event so people would know, go join this event on Zoom, and the link would be right up in the event. Correct?
Yeah, and honestly, I don't really know too much about that, because I was actually going to look into doing that.
Okay, so then I don't feel so bad, because I was feeling pretty bad because it took us 5 minutes to figure it out, and there was like 5 minutes of dead air.
Oh,
and we were all like, are we live? Are we not live? Or what's going on? Like, but then when it started, it was fine.
Yeah.
So
there's a guy I know, Jonathan Garber. I might ask him.
He's our media guy, but he didn't know how to do it either.
Okay, well, if Jonathan doesn't know, he's the guy I would talk to.
Well, thank you for validating me, because oh my God, I felt so terrible afterward. So
5 minutes of dead air is no problem. 20 minutes would have been a problem. 10 would have been approaching, but the first 5 minutes of any type of meeting like that is just to get everything up and running. What I would maybe suggest for next time is to try to start at 5 minets early. And then
we did. And then that's when the problems started happening. And then we were all like, ah. So yeah.
That's a tough one.
It all that ends well. I mean, it was really well attended and I think it's at like 350 views at this point. So, but it just was chaotic in the beginning. So, but thanks again for the validation and also to the speaking to the one platform and not overcomplicating things.
Yes.
I think just sending people to a Zoom link is a really great, it doesn't have to be live on Facebook. I mean, that's great because it has interaction, it gets you in the algorithms, but a well-attended event also gets you into the algorithms, correct?
Yep. So. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's all about, voter outreach and contact. Sometimes I think like the town hall style events, you'll get a lot of your own supporters or folks who are already on board. And that's why some of the social media stuff, like the big emphasis I still have is like messaging people, emailing, messaging people, and calling them, I think. And particularly with local campaigns, people want to hear from the candidates. So I remember when I ran, it's kind of weird out here in District 6, but we all started running in October, and by the time we were done, it was like 3,500 doors. Like
I've been knocking doors for 20 years, so
yeah.
This is not my first rodeo.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing to do, especially in the local races.
Yeah.
But I think you guys did great. I think
Thanks.
I would be
Appreciate that.
nervous to even try something like that. So
Oh my God. My
Yeah.
palms were sweaty. It was
Yeah.
awful.
yeah,
But we did it. So, but
Nice.
thanks. Appreciate you taking the time for that.
yeah, sure. So the next platform I want to talk about is Twitter. I think Twitter it operates, I think, differently than Facebook. You know, obviously you want to select your handle and you always want to have a campaign hashtag. You know, mine was Vote Yogesh. There's like the one Juliana had like a clever one. I think if you can come up with a clever hashtag for your campaign, it'll help connect your supporters together. And I think, you know, when you're first trying to build up that presence, following as many local journalists and politicos as you can, usually you'll follow somebody, they'll give you a follow back. So I think going on there and just following 2,000 people is gonna help you get a presence. And I think the big thing about Twitter is Twitter can build off your Facebook presence and off your web presence as well. Hold on, I'm gonna see. I see 4. I didn't know if there was something going on in the chat. Maybe I haven't checked the chat. Okay, sorry, didn't check the chat. But yeah, just trying to use what's on your Facebook and what's on your website to help inform your Twitter content, I think is very important. And for Twitter, I don't think the candidate should be spending a lot of time on Twitter. I think your campaign volunteer should do the whole thing. And I'm going to show you my Twitter from when I ran. If I can get this Zoom link out of the way. There we go. So I just did a search on all my posts during the campaign time. And like you'll see a statement like this: we must fight climate change through our actions, not our words. With the assistance of Legacy Solar Cooperative, we installed solar panels on our home. I didn't actually write that, but that was pulled from my website. And those were my words at one point. We have an endorsement here where we can just see me with a person. It's not the best graphic, but you know, just having all of this information out here. For example, there's a tweet here about campaign finance data and making it available for downloads. All of this stuff was basically pulled directly from my website and it was just tweeted out. And the campaign volunteer didn't have a whole lot of thinking or analysis to do here. Their main task was just go to the website, schedule a bunch of tweets to happen, and then make these tweets just information that we have already approved so you can kind of see this. And then, you know, we had some other fun things like just grabbing pictures of me and then talking about early voting and asking folks to do that. Also pulling from newspaper endorsements and linking to those. So just going through here. And then another good thing I think to do is to just have neighborhood type people. This is Terry from the barber shop, and you know, he endorsed me and put a sign up. So just having that kind of presence on there. It's also important. Every graphic you put out should have a vote bug on it. People should know when the election is and when they're voting. So Twitter, I think, is more, you can tweet as much as you want, but having a campaign volunteer doing the tweeting and then just pulling that content from content that already exists is a good way to do that. And it's also a good way if you have somebody who's new on the campaign and says, hey, I really want to do social media, and you think like Facebook or Instagram is a little higher stakes, just hand them the Twitter account and say, just take stuff you see from Facebook, take stuff you see from Campaign Lit, take stuff you see from the website, and just use those words and go nuts with Twitter. And I think that's a really good way to get somebody involved and get their feet wet. Then there's other platforms like Instagram, which I don't really know much about, or Snapchat, or there's other ways to contact people, but Facebook and Twitter, I think, are the main ones still. I think Instagram is getting a lot more popular, particularly with younger folks. So I think that's good if you have the bandwidth to do that. When Rod Shukla ran for mayor, he had a really great Instagram account. I think his Instagram account was pretty top notch. So I think that might be one worth checking out. So yeah, that's kind of the presentation. I just had a couple of links here. to folks who have pretty good websites. So I included those in here. So yeah, do we have any questions or discussion, or even maybe what we could do, Heidi, is maybe we could stop the recording, and then if folks want to ask questions that they don't want recorded, we could do that as well.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, my internet kicked me out for a while there. So I'm on my phone now, Yogesh. Can
Okay.
you stop?
Yeah, let me see. Let me do this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then I think I can do it. I'm just going to stop the recording now. Okay. Well, thanks everyone who is out there watching this recorded in the future. We're going to hang out a few minutes, but we're just going to stop the recording for now. And thanks. We appreciate it. And thanks to Progressive Dane for hosting this.